5 years ago, in the month of May, I made a major life decision that would change my life for the better and forever. And 4 years ago, I shared with you my personal story here on this channel and why I became a nomad. It is my most watched video to date. Well, today, as part of May motivation, what I call a blast from the past, I am going to share with you a brief synopsis of my gypsy soul and why I will continue and why I continue to refuel my nomad nature. I'm sitting here in my tiny house, a few years older, a little more gray, a little more wrinkled, but I still have a gypsy soul fire. I'd like to share with you some insight and understanding. I hope you'll join me. Hey, all you serene and simple life peeps out there. Thank you for joining me today on another table topic, May motivation, a blast from the past. This is a class series I'm doing on life as a nomad, whether you are a wannabe, nomad life is in your future or was in your past, or you're a nomad now. I think and hope you will glean some good information about nomad life. I feel like I'm an expert in the subject because I lived in my car and then an SUV for close to 4 years, full time. And I traveled the country and worked in various states doing different jobs. And I saved money for this tiny home. So what I call a landing zone. And I also hope that you watched or enjoyed the video I did on places to sleep, because that seems like that is the #1 deterrent, angst that people have about the nomad life is, where in the heck am I going to sleep every night? I covered 12 different places that I stayed in my car overnight in my nomad journey. And I actually forgot to, so I wanted to add those to the list before we get started on my personal story and why I became a nomad. And that would be Bass Pro Shops. I stayed there in Colorado, beautiful Colorado Springs. And I also stayed in a casino parking lot in Arizona, that would be Parker, and also in Washington. So those would be 2 more to add to the list. And if you didn't see that video, I encourage you to go back there and watch, because it has a lot of good information. I referenced in the intro here that I did my personal story 4 years ago. I was actually in Washington as a camp host, sitting at a picnic table when I did that video. I titled it Personal Story That Catapulted Me into a Gypsy Digital Nomad Life. I have some notes, full-time in my car. And I covered from where I grew up to getting married and getting divorced and 2 children and staying put for many years in Pennsylvania while I raised my children, and then and lots of different details about that story. And I don't feel like I should, I'm not going to go back and rehash all that, but it is a good video. It is a most watched. I think it has, I don't know, over 200,000 hits, which is pretty dang good for this channel. So I will put that in the description, but I'm going to cover a little synopsis because it will lead up to my nomad life. And just because I'm in a tiny home doesn't mean that I'm just not excited to get back out on the road. And I have 3 or 4 times since I've been in this tiny home. And the most recent was to Arizona, where I was there for quite a few weeks and did a lot of videos there of other nomads and their stories. It was just really mini stories. If you want to know my full story, I'd be remiss not to let you know that I do have my book out now, Rut to Revival, A Gypsy Soul Nomad Journey. I call myself a gypsy soul. I have a bracelet my daughter gave me. It says Gypsy Soul on it, and it just is, I think it's a good quick synopsis of who I am. So this is on Amazon if you want to read the full 240-page story, but today I'm going to just give you a little short version. I went back and watched that video and took a few notes, and just to give you some highlights of what was bubbling inside of me all these years. And I feel like a nomad is someone who, you know, likes to move around and doesn't want to stay put. I go into detail in my book on that as well, on what a nomad is. But from the age of 18 to 60, I moved 24 times into various sticks and bricks, whether it be I owned a home a few times, I lived in apartments, I lived in one room home in another person's home, and I just kept moving and moving. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I couldn't wait to fulfill a dream to move to California. From California, I went to Delaware, and then Arizona, and then California again, and then lastly, I was in Texas when I made this big decision to become a nomad. So that is kind of the, just to let you know about how much I moved around. The day I decided to become a nomad, I mentioned in this video that I was feeling lonely, lost, and disconnected. I really felt like life was draining from me, and I was losing my purpose here on earth. Have 3 beautiful grandchildren. Don't see them that often, but I knew to become the best grandma and person that I could become, I needed to remove myself from 4 walls and go out and do what God would have me do. And I feel like I was really and still continue to fulfill a purpose here on earth now that I was absolutely losing living in sticks and bricks. I do have a video on my children and my decision and their decisions, and that is also a hugely watched show. You can go to the playlist Sit and Share Sunday, and you can catch a lot of these videos or things that I'm talking about as well. So I was sitting on my sofa, and this was this was May 2018. Like I said in the intros, about 5 years ago. Sitting on my sofa, little love seat after church. I had just come back from a walk, and just, you know, flipping the channels and just not feeling grounded at all, not feeling like life had lost its meaning. And God spoke to me, and it wasn't in some kind of audible, you know, way. It was just in the depths of my soul that He showed me that I could have a different life and that He could use me all for His glory. And that really, really excited me. So I delved into YouTube and Facebook groups right away, and kudos to the guru of nomad living, Bob Wells, and his Cheap RV Living channel, where I gleaned so much information about living life large. That's what I decided as I was out on the road, that I was really living life large, and how to do that and what to do. I started searching to get a minivan. I didn't want to drive something big. I've never driven anything big in my life, and I kind of have angst about that. And also, it was very appealing to me to get good gas mileage. So I searched for a minivan, and lo and behold, that didn't happen. I explained that in the personal story video from 4 years ago. and God spoke to me again, and he said, I want you to be content with what you have. And that was my 2003 Acura that I had owned for 16 years, sitting in the driveway. Like I said, the last place I was Texas, and it was sitting in the driveway of this landlady's house. And so I decided to take off in my Acura, and wow, what a journey. Very, very exciting. So before I get going a little bit more on what I did as a nomad, give you a few more highlights and bullet points. I did grow up in small town USA, 30 miles east of Pittsburgh, middle-class family. And I mentioned that I stayed put to raise my children as a single mom. They were very little, just like we stayed put as I was growing up. And then when I moved to California, I actually moved 7 times in 6 years. I called it chasing rent. I have always been an entrepreneur, and I also counted up that I had 12 side jobs just to make ends meet and just to pay the rent. And those things were really, really, that kind of lifestyle was really taking a toll on me. It was just too much. So May 2018, I decided it was time to make a big, major change. So I started planning. I actually crunched the numbers too of how much rent I had spent and or mortgage payments over the course of 12 years. No, I don't think it included the mortgage. I'm not sure. $190,000 in rent. So, wow. I just decided, that God had a new purpose for me, and I know I'm repeating myself a little bit. It has been years now, but there was just a new purpose for me, and I was just so excited to fulfill that gypsy soul and head out on the road. So as a nomad, I covered 40 states in over 3.5 years. I worked in 4 different states. I'm not going to give you all the details because it is in my book, and it is, and I've covered it in other videos. I could tell you, I was a camp host in Washington. I worked at Ruby's Inn General Store in Utah. I worked at 2 different Walmarts, both in Montana and Florida, and I saved money for this tiny home. Now, at the very, very onset of becoming a nomad, I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to have a landing zone. Life brings you curveballs, and I felt that it would just give me a sense of security to have somewhere that I could land if I needed to be, whether it be health, some kind of tragedy, anything where I needed to get off the road, that I would have a landing zone. So I worked and pinched pennies and saved money. I am going to do a future class, May motivation on my budget here coming up shortly. But all along, I wanted to have a landing zone, and God has provided me with this beautiful, beautiful tiny home here that I live in the woods, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I'm content. I am selling it for 2 reasons. I want to own my own land to have a landing zone, and I want to be able to pass something on to my children, and I want to get back on the road. So the fire is not left me, and I just can't wait to get back to Arizona and to be with my nomad friends and to meet new friends. So overall, that is my story of being a nomad. It's just wanting to move, not wanting to stay put, and really, really wanting to always experience new things. There's always something around the corner that God has for you if you're just willing and open. My life has been a venture of go, see, do. I have gained so many memories. I put them into 2 digital albums that I will show you in the future in detail. I made digital albums and had them printed out into hardbound books, over 10,000 photos, the memories, the new friends, just the cyber friends, the real life friends. I so wanted a new tribe in my life. As an entrepreneur in a direct sales industry, I had a tribe of like-minded people for 23 plus years. And everybody has gone their own way, and I'm not in touch with any of these people, unfortunately, and they were a major part of my life, and I love them all. If any of you were watching, I recently was researching Facebook. I went back to a blast from the past to see if I could find anybody from the past, and came up with a few people. I'm not active on Facebook, only in groups, but I wanted a new tribe, and I feel like really, God has blessed me with a new tribe of like-minded people. And so the journey will continue. Now, the things that back to the beginning of things that I shared in that previous video is basically, you know, one of the things that was really getting me down is I was just over and done with side jobs. Always, you know, trying to get ahead with my business, but I felt like having side jobs was really slowing up what I could do with my business. So God gave me a new business. He gave me, you know, Say It, Display It, daily inspiration cards. That's where the digital Nomad comes in. And of course, this YouTube is work also. Work is my play. It's a business, Serene and Simple Life. And I thank you all for those of you who make it happen for me and are here to listen to this babbling brook. But I absolutely was done with side jobs, and I was also done with living in someone else's home. I mean, I came from owning my own home, but it was a mortgage payment. So it wasn't, you know, it was an investment, but it really ended up not being. And then always having that rent and not really, and wanting to travel, wanting to see this beautiful, beautiful country that God has given us. And I am thankful and grateful to say that I have seen all 50 states now, except for Alaska. So that will be in my future. I am paying a lease here, and it's difficult to juggle both having a lease payment and being able to go see-do. So I look forward to spending money on the front end so that on the back end I can go see-do more as God would allow me. But I no longer, you know, feel lonely and lost and disconnected. I mean, just like anybody, I have my lonely moments. I have lonely days. But overall, I know that I can, you know, get in my other home, which happens to be a 2012 Toyota Highlander. I can get in my Highlander and go see-do, and that is my second home, and just really get my fill of my gypsy soul. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I went into a huge timeline, and, you know, being married and things that happened, and everything that led up to becoming a nomad. And today I just wanted to give you some of those bullet points, the highlights, the things that drove me to becoming a nomad. And it truly is about new experiences, new friends, new opportunities. So humbled and grateful that God has used me to make a difference in other people's lives. Brings me to tears. And yeah, just, that's it. That's my personal story. I've always had that moving blood and traveling in me, and it continues to bubble over. And I look forward to the future, and I look forward to many more years of traveling. And then when I need to settle down, that God will provide me. He's already provided me and provide me a new landing zone and on into one day at a time, into the future. I pulled out a special message for today. It says, welcome change, welcome growth. Don't be a settler, be a pioneer. And that's from the Entrepreneur Collection. So in closing, I looked at the book here. One of my chapters, and actually I flagged it. Chapter 8 is Who I Am and What I Know. Discoveries, learning and growing. These are like the subheadings. A gypsy soul nomad. My top 10 whys in this nomad lifestyle. How long will I do this? Awareness, life in the moment, self-induced stress, gratitude changes everything. And I thought it would be fun to read to you. Let's see, on page, top 10 whys of a nomad lifestyle. I thought I had marked it, page 204. I'm going to read you 2 of the 10 that I have here. Before embarking on a full-time journey into the great unknown, I jotted down my top 10 reasons for leaving a stationary life confined by 4 walls. Living as a nomad was an unparalleled option for me. It was important to me to live my life to the fullest and give it all my attention. Years later, I've lived out and continue to fulfill my top 10 reasons. But now I changed the initial wording of this list from I'm going to I am. Number 2, I am most fulfilled outdoors in God's green earth. When I was living in a house, I designed products on my porch and participated in outdoor art craft shows just to live outside. A common statement of vehicle dwellers is we don't live in our vehicle, we live outside our vehicle. And number 7, I am expanding my connection with people and making many new friends. The experience is providing me with a tribe of like-minded people. To me, this realizes a universal need we all have to be accepted and loved. It is a priceless journey to meet people from all walks of life with a story all their own. Thank you all. For those of you I met in Arizona this past January, thank you for sharing just a tidbit of your story. I could have talked to you, many of you, all day long, and I hope to get to see you again. I hope to see new people out there on the road. Put in the comments, are you one of those that's looking to become a nomad soon? And I would love to meet you. So in a future class this month, I'd also like to do a question and answer session like I did years ago in the Sit and Share Sundays. So if you have any questions for me about the nomad life, please put in the comments and I will write them all down. And then towards the end of the month, after I've done several of these May motivation classes, I'll do a question and answer. So, alrighty, that's it from the Babbling Brook today. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll continue to stay tuned to these classes. I'm calling it a class for these table topics. Thank you for coming along and being here. Please subscribe and click the bell if you haven't already, and give this one a thumbs up. And in the meantime, blessings in your day and joy in your journey.